What if I told you one of the biggest mistakes Californians make when moving to Raleigh is choosing the wrong area? And that one decision can completely change whether you love it here or you regret the move. Today we're talking about what it's really like moving from California to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2026. Not just the obvious stuff like lower home prices and less traffic, which we know, but the things people do not talk about enough, like humidity, daycare wait lists, commute differences, the lifestyle in smaller towns, and why some of the best places to live are not the ones most YouTube videos always mention. My family and I moved here 8 years ago from Southern California, sight unseen. So we definitely know exactly what it feels like to make that leap without really knowing what to expect. We've been through the excitement, the surprises, and definitely some of the mistakes. So if you're considering moving to Raleigh or anywhere in the Triangle, this video should definitely help you avoid some of those pitfalls. Make sure to stick around until the end because one of the biggest things Californians struggle with after moving here has nothing to do with home prices. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and grab our free buyer and seller relocation guides in the description box. One of the biggest reasons people leave California for Raleigh is because life here just feels more manageable. In California, especially if you're coming from Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, or the Bay Area, everything can feel crowded, expensive, rushed, and competitive. Don't get me wrong, Raleigh still has growth traffic and rising prices, but it feels a lot more balanced. You can actually get a newer house with more space, a backyard, and still have money left over to enjoy your life. That's one of the biggest differences people notice here right away. But one thing that surprises a lot of newcomers is that Raleigh is not just one type of place. Whether you're living in downtown Raleigh, which feels completely different than living in North Raleigh, or if you want to go over to Cary, which feels totally different than living in Wendell or Knightdale. Or if you want to be secluded away, a little bit like Wake Forest, it totally feels different than Clayton. Even places like Rolesville, Fuquay-Varina, and Pittsboro all have their own vibe, and that's important. That is why where you choose to live matters just as much as the decision to move here in the first place. A lot of people that we have coming from California immediately look at Cary, Apex, and North Raleigh because those are the places everybody talks about. And let me be honest, yes, they're great, but there are also a lot of other areas that deserve a little attention. For example, Wendell, which is a city we really love, has become one of the most interesting small towns in the Triangle because you get a charming downtown, a slower pace of life, newer communities, and access to the wonderful Wendell Falls without paying Cary prices. Now, Rolesville has quietly become one of the fastest growing towns near Raleigh, and it still feels newer and less crowded than a lot of the other suburbs. But don't get me wrong, Rolesville's on the border of Wake Forest, but it still feels much slower living than anywhere in Wake Forest. Knightdale is another up-and-comer with the place a lot of Californians overlook. It's close to Raleigh, has great access to highways, and continues adding more restaurants like the Depot, which is a nice upscale place to eat, and amazing Texas barbecue, which we always talk about, like Prime Barbecue. It also has great greenway like Knightdale Station Park, which is the crown jewel here, and shopping that's all over the place. Now, Fuquay-Varina has become popular for people who want more space and a small town feel without feeling totally isolated. But the biggest challenge I hear from a lot of our clients that move there is the drive in and out during rush hour. Pittsboro is attracting a lot of buyers who want something a little bit more unique, especially with the growth happening near Chatham Park and the new Children's Hospital coming close to that area in Apex. Now, before we get into home prices, there's one thing about Raleigh that most Californians do not fully appreciate until they're actually living here. Everyday life is actually just easier. Parking's easier, getting around's easier, running errands is easier, grocery stores, for the most part, because it's starting to get a little busy, are less crowded. Going out to dinner is easier. You don't feel like you're fighting traffic all the time. You don't feel like you're fighting traffic, lines, and crowds every second of the day like we did in California and San Diego. It has grown a lot, but compared to anywhere in California, it's a piece of cake. This slower pace of life is one of the biggest reasons people end up staying for a long time. And even though Raleigh has grown a lot, you still have access to so much. One of the things we loved the most when we moved here was the location. You can be at the beach in about 2 hours to 3 hours, depending where you're at. You can be in the mountains in 3 to 4 hours. You can drive to Charleston, Savannah, which these are beautiful places, Asheville, DC, Nashville, or the Outer Banks for a weekend trip. And compared to California, where traffic alone can make a short trip feel super exhausting, Raleigh gives you a lot more flexibility. And when it comes to entertainment and amenities, Raleigh has changed a lot over the last few years. The Lenovo Center is going through a huge transformation with more entertainment, restaurants, hotels, and a mixed-use development planned around it. North Hills keeps getting bigger and better with a whole bunch of places to hang out. Fenton and Cary has become one of the top spots for dining, shopping, and nightlife. Then downtown Durham continues to grow beyond belief. And then even smaller towns are adding more breweries, restaurants, parks, and local events. There's always something going on here no matter which way you look. You have Hurricanes games, and as I'm filming this, in April, the Canes are going to the playoffs, and we're excited. We also have Duke, UNC, and NC State sports, and you've seen a lot of that with the Final Four. Concerts, food trucks, rodeos, farmers markets, breweries, greenways everywhere, festivals, and live music almost year-round. And when you're coming to visit, make sure you check out the Mountains to the Sea Trail. This goes all the way through North Carolina, and in total, it's 1,175 miles of hiking trails. It's absolutely amazing. And one thing I think surprises a lot of people is that you don't have to live in the middle of the city to enjoy all of it. You can live in a place like Wake Forest and take a little drive out, Wendell, Clayton, Holly Springs, or Fuquay-Varina, and still be close enough to enjoy Raleigh, Durham, Cary, or Chapel Hill whenever you want. Housing is obviously one of the biggest reasons Californians move here. And even though home prices have gone up over the last several years, Raleigh is still way more affordable than most of California. And as of 2026, Raleigh's single-family home prices are averaging around $449,000 depending on the area. Cary, Apex, and Holly Springs, which are highly sought out, are usually a little higher, with many neighborhoods out there in the mid-600s to well over $900,000. If you want more value, space, and lower prices, places like Garner, Clayton, Wendell, Zebulon, Knightdale, and Andrew can stretch your money a lot further. Townhomes are still one of the best entry points into the market without having to pay rent, especially for people relocating from California that want lower maintenance and lower monthly payments. And depending on the area, townhomes can range anywhere from the high 200 to 300,000 range all the way up to 500,000. But one of the things most people don't think about is the total monthly payment. North Carolina property taxes are much lower than California, which is awesome. But some buyers are surprised by homeowners insurance, HOA fees, utilities, and community fees. That's why we always tell people not to just focus on the home price. You have to think about the commute, the neighborhood, the amenities, the monthly payment, and, very important, what kind of lifestyle do you really want? And if you're thinking about moving to Raleigh or anywhere in the Triangle, my number is right here on the screen. Call, text, or email us anytime. We're local real estate brokers here in North Carolina, and we help people make this move every week. Now, the bigger adjustment is actually the lack of public transportation and walkability in some areas. Raleigh is very car dependent. If you're coming from a place with trains, subways, or better public transportation, that is definitely going to be an adjustment. Jobs are another reason why Raleigh continues to attract so many Californians. The Triangle remains one of the strongest job markets in the country, especially for tech, biotech, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, education, and engineering. The Research Triangle Park continues to grow, and you have major employers like Apple, Google, Cisco, Lenovo, IBM, SAS, Duke, UNC Health, Wake Med, and so many more. There's also huge projects happening all around the area that are bringing even more jobs. Holly Springs, to name one, continues to see biotech growth with $2 billion expansion from Genentech. Johnston County is expanding fast with billions going into this suburb, and the airport is growing. There are major developments happening in Apex, Cary, and Chatham County. And one thing people don't always realize is that Raleigh is also becoming a great place for entrepreneurs, remote workers, and small business owners. Schools are another reason people move here. Wake County has some of the strongest public schools in the state. And there are also private schools, charter schools, magnet schools, and year-round schools. But if you have younger kids, daycare is definitely something you need to plan for early. Wait lists here can be long, especially some of the more popular suburbs. Now let's talk about some of the smaller lifestyle things that can catch Californians off guard, like the Mexican food and the sushi, which I will tell you, since we came here 8 years ago, has gone way up. You can get dialed in Mexican food at places like Cheetos Tacos and sushi at places like Osha or Okai in downtown Raleigh. Groceries are usually less expensive overall, but seem to be pretty close to where we were in California. And to be honest, it's not always as fresh as in California. Avocados, which we definitely use a lot, are definitely more expensive, and sometimes they kind of go up and down with quality. And like I said, Mexican food can be hit and miss, but like I told you, it's gotten a lot better. And there's definitely some foods you might miss from California, but it's changing fast. At the same time here, there are a lot of things people end up loving here. North Carolina barbecue, but I actually favor Prime Barbecue. Farmers markets, food trucks, breweries, which are all over the place, local coffee shops, fresh peaches, apple orchards, and all the seasonal events that make the lifestyle here feel very different. Some of the utilities can also be a little surprising. Summers are definitely hot and humid, so air conditioning costs can definitely be higher than expected. Winters are mild overall, but you still use heat more often than you definitely would in Southern California. And depending on where you live, you may have propane, septic, or well water, which is something that we had to get used to, and many Californians don't understand. And the changes in the weather is another big adjustment. Spring, it's absolutely beautiful, but the pollen apocalypse is very real. Summers are humid, falls are absolutely gorgeous, but then you actually have a winter. They're mild, and snow really doesn't last that long when we get it, but we definitely get it, and it can get cold. And one thing people really notice is how much greener everything is here. As soon as you drive in or you come out of RDU, you're gonna notice trees everywhere, and you're going, ooh, I haven't seen this before. Raleigh gets a lot more rain than California. That's also why you have all these beautiful trees, parks, greenways, lakes, and beautiful scenery. You just have to get used to the rain, because sometimes it will just start pouring. It will pour for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then then the sun comes out. It's always a trip to me. Now, one of the biggest cons that does not get talked about enough is the bugs and the wildlife. Yes, there's definitely mosquitoes, ticks, snakes, spiders, and flying roaches. Oof. That's where your air exterminators and Mosquito Joe are your best friends during the year. And if you're backed up the trees of the woods like we are, you're probably gonna see more wildlife than you're ever used to. We literally have a fox that we see on a Ring camera once in a while, deer all the time, an owl that tries to attack the birds, the bird feeder, and definitely snakes. Then the one thing that you need to know, the little copperheads, which are the worst, yeah, they're bad, but the big long ones, which are the black snakes, which are actually scary, don't get rid of those. I had to learn that the first year that I was here. Those big black ones will get rid of all of them. So if you do that, you'll be good. We haven't seen many copperhead snakes in probably about 3 or 4 years. But honestly, every place has trade-offs. California, as I can remember, in the 90s and 2000s has earthquakes, droughts, wildfires, geez, and sky-high prices. Raleigh has humidity, pollen, and bugs. For our family, moving from Southern California, sight unseen 8 years ago, ended up being, to be honest, one of the best decisions we ever made. We got more space, a better quality of life, lower costs, and a slower pace without giving up the things we loved. Raleigh's not perfect, don't let anybody tell you that, and there are definitely things that take a little getting used to, but for a lot of people, the pros far outweigh the cons. Now earlier I mentioned that choosing the wrong location can completely change your experience here, and nowhere is that more true than with commuting. Traffic has definitely gotten worse in Raleigh over the last several years, and there's no question about that. Areas around the I-40, I-440, Capitol Boulevard, US 1, and I-540 can get busy during rush hour. But to be honest, compared to California, it's still nothing close. And you plan your commute around your job and around your lifestyle and figure out the suburbs that you want to live in around those freeways. But most people moving here from California laugh when locals complain about traffic, because what Raleigh considers bad traffic is usually still way better than an average day in Los Angeles. And if you're thinking about moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, or anywhere in the Triangle, we would love to help. We're local real estate brokers here in North Carolina, and we help people relocate here every single week. Our contact information is right here on the screen. Call us, text us, or email us anytime. And if you're still in research mode, no pressure. Do yourself a favor and make sure that you subscribe to us, because we put videos out every week. And also grab our free buyer and seller relocation guides in the description box to help make your move frictionless. Also, answer me a question. Let me know in the comments, if you were moving from California, would you rather live closer to downtown Raleigh or in one of the smaller suburbs like Wendell, Fuquay-Varina, or Wake Forest? And tell me why. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next one.